speed.
And camera speed.
All right, Ron, so talk to us about the things that you value.
You know, the things that I value most are the way I was raised. You know, one of the things that I always remember from my mom, being the fifth of 10 boys, is everything is going to be all right. That was just a statement, no matter how chaotic things may have been. Those words are something that I will never forget, and I value that so much, because at the end of the day, everything is all right. So for me, everything being okay, it's almost like saying, who put the moon into the sky? I believe my mom did, because those were values that she held all of us strongly to. I value that more than anything that I can think of.
All right. Tell us about the makeup of your family.
Well, the makeup of my family is my mom, and it's actually 9 boys. My father's since remarried, and I have a younger brother. But that core group of boys, me being the fifth and being the middle one, I always felt, I guess you could say, like the outcast or the black sheep or whatever. But what it done for me, it made me be one, without a doubt, have more drive. You know, I was one that would hustle my brothers for the work that needed to be done, or the chores that needed to be done around the house. So you'd come in the house and you'd see me doing all the cleaning and all the dishwashing and all of the different things almost every week, a week in and week out. And so my mom used to ask me, why was I always the one who was doing the work? And I would say, because those guys didn't want to do it, so I charged them $2.
Okay. So I know you're the fifth of 10 boys. So I'm going to ask you again to tell us about the makeup of your family and your role, you know, or your place in being the fifth of 10 boys.
Well, the makeup are with, you know, being in a house, an apartment with that many boys is something. We have bunk beds in every room. You know, me being right in the middle, I was really kind of the go-to person, but I didn't realize that. I just thought I was the one that was being picked on. Now that I'm older, I'm sort of like the glue to the family. I'm the one that everyone comes to for counseling. I'm the one that everyone calls when they need something. Back then, I didn't see it that way, but really and truly, I was the one that was picking up all of those things as well, because I was the one that had money, because I charged them for things to do around the house. And yes, I would have $10, $15 and would allow them to borrow $1 or $2 to go to the candy lady in the neighborhood.
Okay. So you talked about the things that you value, and you talked about your mother, and you talked about the statement that she made to you saying that everything is going to be okay. Can you talk to us about the story and the time where you had the whole family in that whole hostage situation, and you called your mom and talk about how that statement came alive then? Just tell us about that story and talk about that value.
You know, growing up, being a young person, growing up in the inner city in Memphis, Tennessee, you know, there were some difficult things and difficult times. I was in love, so I thought, to me, it was love. But my mom had a way of always making things seem as if, without any shadow of a doubt, it was going to be okay. One evening I showed up at my girlfriend's house then, and another guy showed up, and I was in love. So I'm thinking, well, she should tell this guy to go home. All of a sudden, in a moment of time, I snapped, and before you know it, I had the entire family hostage at gunpoint. And not thinking and not seeing things the way I probably should have, but at that particular time, I really thought that I had no reason to live. I thought that, you know, life was just over for me, because this person that I love so much was basically cutting me off. And so for 2 or 3 hours during that time, I had the gun drawn on this entire family. My girlfriend at that time was terrified. Her mom, her dad, the guy, her little sister, all of them was completely terrified. And then all of a sudden, my girlfriend at that time just ran into me and said, well, you're just going to have to take me first. And all of a sudden, Daddy jumps up to go and get his gun. I pushes her down. I run out of the door, jump in the car, tell my buddy to take off in the car, because I already had given him the word that I was about to do something pretty crazy and pretty stupid. But we drove off, and then we came back to the house, but we came back and we were crawling through the bush to make sure that these 2 people did not go out. And all of a sudden they decided they were going to come and walk out of the door. And I jump out of the bush 3 houses from their house, and I shoot the gun up in the air, and they run back up into the house. And then I called the house, and I told her mom that without a doubt I know that I'm going to die tonight. But you know what? I'm taking some of y'all with me. Some of you guys that's in that house are going to have to go with me. And this mom said that, you crazy, I'm going to call your mom. And you know, in my mind, you know, I'm thinking that, oh wow, she's going to call my mom. So she called my mom. And you know, my mom got all my brothers together and told them to go and try and find me and bring me home. Now, anyone that wants to be found can be found. Anyone that don't want to be found will not be found. I didn't want to be found, so my brothers did not find me. And at the same time, I decided, hey, call the police. Police was there, and I'm hiding over in the bush across the street now from this house that I just shot up in the air to keep these people from going out. And then all of a sudden, the police left. They got quiet again, and they was leaving the house to go out again. They're walking out with her dad, her mom, and her and this guy. And I come from across the street, in the middle of a street, a main street in Memphis, Tennessee, and shot the gun up in the air, and they run back in the house again. I took off, and then I go and hide. But at that time, I started to think about what I was doing. So I went to this street, this Exxon, to this phone booth. And these are things that I will never forget, because these words are always something that I hold real, real dear to my heart. My mama saying, everything will be okay. And she said to me, well, I picked up the phone, went to the payphone, and I called my mom on it. And I told my mom what was happening, and I just felt like I didn't want to live anymore. And I was just telling her, I don't think I could take this anymore. And my mom said these words to me. She said, baby, she didn't get loud. She didn't tell me that I need to stop acting so stupid. She said, son, baby, what I need you to do, I need you to just come on home. Everything is going to be all right. And that's all she said. And from that moment, some snapped inside of me, just as if it was when it snapped inside of me to do what I was about to do. I got in the car and I drove home. And just like my mom said, everything did at that time be okay, and everything is all right. And I'm so cool with that, because I'm telling you, no matter what you're going through, everything is going to be all right.
Cool. Can we stop there for a second?
Yeah, let's cut.
All right. Great. So we're going to use these pictures that you're taking
Yeah.
for his one sheet,
His one sheet?
his promotion.
I'm excited what life has to hold.
Can you hear out of it now?
Yeah, I turned the volume up. I didn't like turn the input up. I was just the volume to the headphones.
I am truly excited about what today holds.
Are you going
It's
into work
just getting
today?
started. No, I'm off today, tomorrow. I won't be back until
yeah.
Monday. You know we off tomorrow. So
Yeah.
I'm
Sorry, I
Right, sound speed, camera speed.
Okay, Ron, tell us about the instance in the 4th grade.
You know, when I was in the 4th grade, I was out one day playing in these projects that we live in Memphis with two of my friends. I'll never forget them. They were two beautiful sisters. But I was one of those young people that would play out there in the sand, and I would dream, because over these projects we would always have airplanes coming by to land at the Memphis airport. And one day I looked up in the sky and this airplane was passing by, and I said, you know, one day I'm going to fly all over the world, and I'm on an airplane, I'm going to play pro football. And I was so serious. But my friends looked at me and laughed as if I was cracking a joke. It broke my heart, but it was one of the most driving forces that I can ever remember. I said from that point forward in the 4th grade, I'm going to show them. And so everything that I did going forward, you know, playing any sport, I thought about Sharon and Charlotte Mathis, those two friends, those two sisters, and the way they laughed at me. And so when I think about that now, being who I am, I always tell this tale, and I say to myself, because I've flown all over the world, I've played football, and I also haven't bought my plane yet, but that's still in the making. I just want you to know that I did not give up, because they were, to me, I thought, like we have now, friends that are dream busters, friends that don't believe like you believe, but it was something for me that made me have a driving inside. And you know, one of the things that I always go back to when that happened was, as my mama would always say, you know what, son, everything is going to be all right. And it is, and it was, and it still is. So with that being said, hey, How you like me now?
Okay. How did that look when he was?
don't
Because
know.
I saw him looking over here.
Well, you're kind of looking in the middle.
As long as it still looks okay.
Yeah, I mean-
Can we play it back?
Camera.
You want to ask the
Yeah,
question
yeah.
again?
Yeah, I'll set you up.
What are you doing with?
I'm an administrative assistant.
Just let me know when you're good,
I help
Jeff.
out a lot.
Oh, okay.
And if you
Alright,
when you start saying something,
Okay.
I remember, I remember, or I can
And just stuff that
recall,
no one
or,
else wants to
like
do.
take us
Yeah.
back to
Okay.
that place and say
All
it
right.
like that.
All right.
Too young and
All right, we got
inexperienced
camera
to have a real
speed.
job, I guess.
Sound rolling.
Make sure you do it in front of his face so I can get it on. Get it in the. Yeah, we're good.
Okay, Ron, tell us about the experience in the 4th grade.
You know, my experience in the 4th grade, growing up in the projects in North Memphis, was one that I'll never forget. Playing in the sandbox with two of my friends and always watching the airplanes as they would fly across the projects. And, you know, me being one of those young persons that was a dreamer, very ambitious. And so one day, this plane flew by and it looked like it was pretty low. And so I told my friends, I said, you know what? One day I'm going to fly all over the world. I'm going to play pro football and I'm on my own airplane. And both my friends laughed me as if I was cracking a joke. And I was so serious. But you know what I did then? I decided without any shadow of a doubt, I'm going to show them. So I mean, I really was dedicated, motivated, and truly driven by just that moment, because I was feeling like if my friends didn't believe me. If you can't get your friends to believe you, who are you going to get to believe you? But you know what? I always go back to that place to where my mom would always make me feel that. And it was, son, you know what? Everything is going to be all right. That is something that I heard from my mom all my life. Everything is going to be all right. I'll give you a prime example. Let me tell you. My mom told me one day when I was 5 years old and I couldn't go into a bathroom. It said colors and it said white. And I asked her, why couldn't I go in this one? And she said, son, just go in there and use that one, because you know what? Everything is going to be all right. And when I look back and I think about all those moments and all those times, everything is all right. And I'm so cool with that.
Alright, cut.
Cut.
So let me look, wherever you just make sure you look here.
Rolling there.
Yeah.
Sound rolling?
Sounds rolling on that one.
Okay. Got sound rolling on that.
On here. Good.
Good to go.
Alright, Ron, tell us about the 4th grade.
You know, when I was in the 4th grade, I was playing in the sandbox with two of my friends in the projects that grew up in North Memphis. And me being one of those young person that dreams, and these airplanes would come by and we would always point at the airplanes. This particular day, the airplane came by and it seemed to be pretty low, getting ready to land at the Memphis airport. And I looked up and I said to my friend, I said, one day I'm going to fly all over the world. I'm going to own my own airplane and I'm going to play pro football. And my friends laughed at me as if I cracked a joke. But I was so serious. You know, because when they laughed, it just made something go off inside of me. Say, you know what? I'm going to show them. I'm going to show them. Because, you know, my mom would always tell me when I was young, she would always say, you know, son, everything is going to be all right. Everything is going to be all right. And one in particular thing that I'll never forget, my mom telling me that everything was going to be all right, was one day when I was not able to go into a bathroom. I was 5 years old. I'll never forget it. And I looked up in the bathroom and it said colored and it said white. And she said, son, I said, why can't I go in there? She said, son, just go in there and use the bathroom. She wasn't mad or hostile. She just said to me, everything is going to be all right. Well, you know, as I said to those friends, that one day I'm going to fly all over the world. Well, I have gone a number of different places all over the world. The only thing I haven't done is bought my own airplane. But you know what? It's still coming. Thank you.
Okay, cool. The first one was better. It was obviously that it goes to your. Oh, not yet.
I'm just, it's just
Okay.
syncing up the
I got
sound, so it's already, everything's already rolling. So
Cool. Tennessee State goes into the NFL, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the NFL goes into the prison.
Yeah.
No.
It goes
NFL goes to your
into
mom.
drug dealing. The Tennessee State was, my mom was murdered while I was there, junior
Right.
college.
Okay.
And then from there, NFL. And then
All
from
right.
the NFL to prison.
Okay.
Prison.
So Ron, talk to us about your experience at Tennessee State University playing football, and tell the story about your mother being murdered.
Well, I graduated from high school and was still one of those young persons who, you know, without a doubt, probably could have went to just about any college. But Tennessee State was the school that I chose because it was an HBCU. I got up there and I played behind some of the greatest football players that I've ever seen play the game of football. In 1984, we went undefeated. And during that time, you have to pay your dues. So in 1985, I was on top of the world. I was a starter. I was one of the top athletes at that particular time, not only at Tennessee State, but in the country. I also remember a day that my mom, my dad, and a couple of my brothers, you could never get all of these guys at one time in the car because it just didn't have enough room. So my mom, my dad, and a few of my brothers had come up to see me play, and I had the game of my life at Tennessee State. And I remember waking up that Sunday morning and my mom and them are getting ready to head home, and I told my mom, you know what, when I get drafted into the NFL next year, I'm going to buy you a big old house and get you out of those projects, and you ain't going to have nothing to worry about. And my mom said this to me. These are words that I still hold dear in my heart. And she said, son, I don't care much about a big old house, but do this for me. Be my first son to graduate from college, and I'll be the happiest mom in the whole wide world. But to my dismay, 4 days later, on September the 4th, my mom was standing in the door as someone was shooting at my cousin in the projects that we live in. And that one shot, that one bullet, hit her in the heart, and she died. And I really, again, thought my life was over. But everything that she had said to me continued to echo in my head and in my brain. She would always tell me, everything is going to be all right. And you know, I'll never forget one day I was sleeping after my mom had been murdered. And she came to me in a dream. And it may have been because I had all these memories in my head about what she would say to me. But in that dream, she came to me even as I was at my lowest point. I wanted to quit school. I wanted to throw in the towel. I thought my life was over again at that time. And she said to me in my dream, stop all that crying. Everything is going to be all right. So I went back to school and I dedicated my life to being the best football player. But the thing that was driving me more than anything was I had to prove to not only myself, but I wanted my mom to know that my dreams that I had made to those my friends, that I was working hard on that. And so after finishing college, I went to play football 2 years in a row with the Atlanta Falcons. But I was making a lot of decisions. I was only on the practice squad. But I was making a lot of bad decisions. And eventually I got released from them. And from there I came back to Nashville. And I felt like the world owed me something, because I did not take advantage of the opportunities that I had. But there was still something going on in my head. And it was like a song. It was, everything is going to be all right.
Okay.
Cut.
Honestly, you can probably look at whichever one you want.
Yeah.
Whichever one feels comfortable, you know.
It shouldn't make a difference, but sound speed, camera speed.
Again, just pick up from those days in college or after college.
You know, right after I gotten released or cut or whatever you call it from the Falcons, I just felt like the world owed me something. I was mad at a lot of people. I had a tough time in my belief system because I felt still I was so alone. And so what did I do? I came back and went back to some of the things that I'd been doing when I was younger. I decided that I was going to come back and sell drugs. So I got hooked in with a bunch of my buddies from out of state, from LA, and we decided that that was going to be my way out completely. And so before you know it, I was probably considered one of the biggest drug dealers Nashville had ever seen. I was selling cocaine. I was running back and forth from city to city, state to state. But then that one day came, that dreadful day that I'll never forget again. I got stopped by the police. I got arrested. And I was facing 40 years to life in prison. My whole life flashed before me. Everything that I'd ever done, everything that I'd ever seen, all the things that had been said to me. It started to be a replay. And I was pressing rewind and saying to myself, How did I get here? Now, just keep in mind, you're looking at a person who went from high school to college, from college to try and play a little pro ball, from pro ball to one at a particular time owning my own business, and then now facing 40 years to life after graduating from college and doing all the things that I've been saying. And even in that time, I could always remember my mom saying everything would be all right. So anyway, I ended up receiving 4 years in prison. And during that time, I must say, that was the time where I knew without a doubt I had to make some serious choices. And in that, I needed to either change the way I was thinking, I had to change my mind, because I had come to the conclusion, if I didn't change my mind, things were going to continue the way they've always been in my life, up and down, topsy-turvy, because I wasn't making good decisions. I decided then that I was going to start reading everything that had something positive, edifying, and uplifting. I read the Bible front to back, back to front. I studied the different forms of religions and so on and so forth. But I was always raised as a believer from my mom's perspective. And that was going to a church every Sunday and Wednesday, no matter what. If you lived in Clara Johnson House, you was going to church. And so me and my time in prison was that time to really reflect. And from that, I knew that I had to replace some things. So from reading and studying and praying, my mind started to make that shift. I could feel it, I could see it, and even people around me could see it. And I knew then that the person that I used to be was not that person anymore. And so what I decided to do is to start teaching and talking about choices and the effects. What I had come to the conclusion was, I was and you are direct derivatives of the choices we make. I was the sum total of every choice that I had made. I was the direct derivative of my decisions. So the things that I had gone through was not accidental. It was because of my choosing. But you know, at the end of the day, one of the things that I held on and I hold on dearly, and I know I'll hold for the rest of my life, these words that my mom would always say to me. Son, you know what? Everything is going to be all right. And I'll give you an example of what that meant. I took a trip to Africa, and I was speaking to a crowd of thousands of people, and I'm telling this story right here. And the crowd was cheering, and I was telling them that everything is going to be all right. I know sometimes it may get cloudy in your life. Things may not seem as if they're going to go right. It seems as if the bottom has been poured out. But at the end of the day, everything is going to be all right. So for me, as I move forward and live my life, I'm going to tell you without any shadow of a doubt, if you keep on living and you keep on trying to do some of the things that you do, everything is going to be all right. But I can tell you this, if you don't change your mind, you won't change your destination. If you want your destination to change, or you want your destiny to be different, you have to change your mind. That is what happened to me. I knew without a doubt. I went through all the things that I went through because I needed to change my mind. And in changing my mind, I have completely changed my direction. Now, I am a speaker. I am a trainer. I'm an expert in everything that I do. And I've dedicated my life to young people and to people in general. And teaching and educating and inspiring and uplifting us to make absolutely sure that we know that change is not a force, it's a choice. And I chose to make this change. I've chose to know without any shadow of a doubt that everything is going to be all right.
Cut.
Cut. You good? All right. And we've got camera speed and sound speed.
One thing I wanted to share about Ron Johnson was when I was in the 12th grade, I was a young person that had a lot of different issues as far as school and books and so on and so forth. I remember one day I was asked to go to the board and to write as they were calling out different words and different things. And I was so embarrassed because I could not spell what I was being asked to put on the board. I turned around in a moment of time and threw the chalk at the teacher And from there, I knew I was getting out of that situation, which we find a lot of us do. To get out of situations, we know without a doubt to get in trouble. And so that was one of those days. But it was a different day for me. Because when I got sent to the office, the principal didn't believe that I was the one that was being sent down there. And then second, when he sat me down and asked me, why did I throw the chalk at the teacher? This was the first time in 12 years of being in school I ever shared this with anyone. My mother didn't know, but my mother knew I had some difficulties. And she would always say everything's going to be all right no matter what. But the principal and all the school teachers that I've had didn't know this. And I told him that I could not spell what I was being asked to put on the board. And my heart was very heavy. And he dropped his head. He left out of the office. Next thing I know, he called the teacher down and they were outside of the room talking about me. And then the teacher walked into the room and she had tears in her eyes. And she sat beside me and held my hand and she started to cry. And she said to me, she said, I didn't know. I never would have known that you had this problem where you couldn't spell and you was that much ashamed of it. And she said to me, you know what? From this point forward, you will never be ashamed of what you cannot do. That made me feel so good because it was all connected with things that my mom had said all my life. Everything is going to be all right. And here it is, my teacher who could have failed me and I not graduate as a senior in high school. She said, from this point forward, you will not be ashamed of what you can do because I'm going to work with you through this. And all of the issues that you have in that area, you're going to make sure that every teacher that you come in contact with knows exactly that. So they'll know how to work with you. And so when I got to college, every professor that I had, I waited till after class and I talked to every last one of them. And I told them that I can do the work. It's just tough for me to do a 15-minute quiz and finish it in 15 minutes. I may need 25. Or it may take me a minute to figure out how to spell some of the things that I may have to spell. And you know, every professor that I had in school allowed me to take the time that was necessary to do the work, but they all worked with me. So that tells me right there, as my mama would say, loud and clear, everything is going to be all right. And here it is. I lost it on a day where I was being called out, so I thought everything ended up being all right. And just for words, I'd like to say that everything is going to be all right. Everything is going to be all right.
It's cut. I'm rolling as well, so just feel free to.
Okay, I want to tell y'all a story about one of my best friends. We were.
Can we get some of with his face in it too?
Well, the thing is, he's not.
We were.
This is this is like filler.
It's just for whenever we cut, so it looks like there's hand gestures, because everything else was a bust shot that didn't have hands. So
Yeah, I mean, you can come look at this one too. It's just variety of.
You know, one of the things that I'll never forget when I think about my friend who was one of my best friends, AJ, in high school. I remember him coming to get me to kind of watch his back and telling me he was going to fight this guy. Because one of the things that I'll tell you, you know, I'm a second-degree black belt in Taekwondo. So I've always been one of those guys that's pretty good with his hands.
We're not worried about
But
the sound of this.
one of the things that I did is he asked me to watch his back.
You guys are thinking about cutting away and getting the hand gesture.
And before you know it, I'm just
telling
finding
the story. Some of the long
these
ones,
things that
we
just
cut
really
away
make
just
me
showed,
feel like
B-roll of him just talking.
amazing
But the
thing. It's just crazy.
No, the hand gestures are good for when he's telling stories
So,
and stuff. The
He
kind of
ended
like
up being
B-roll of
stabbed
him just
15
talking and
times,
stuff, or
and
like
he laid in my arms.
kind of
And all
off-camera
I
hand
could
gestures.
do
That's
was
probably
say,
best for
Man,
like in
help
between
me on the
stories
way.
or at the beginning or
All he
towards
wanted
the,
was
maybe not the end,
air.
but the beginning, like
And I
in
could
between.
not
Can we get a little bit of B-roll of that too? Like him just standing here talking now?
Yeah, like having a conversation with you.
Didn't know exactly what to do.
No, we don't need to try.
Yeah,
You know,
this is just
Through
like.
that particular situation, I did not know.
Cause I see what you're saying with the hand gestures.
But I just
I would
want
also
you
like
guys
to
to
play
know
around with getting some.
everything is going to be all right. Everything is
just like some medium shots of him.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing that I'll never forget. Those words. Everything is gonna be all right. So with that being said, you
So
know,
hungry.
and then going on off to college and seeing all these people from all over the world. I met this wonderful lady from Trinidad and Tobago, and she was one of those persons who my mom believed in, and she would always tell me, what do you think your mom would say to you? It was always a stark reminder that she would say, what do you think your mom would say to you? When I was about to drop out of college after my mom lost her life, my wife, she asked me, which was my girlfriend in Trinidad, she would say, what do you think your mom would say? Everything is going to be all right. So I went back to college, came on back, finished playing that year, and the next year on Top of the World,
I actually thought that
Ron
shot with the
Johnson,
light in it was kind
the
of cool.
Spider-Man, was really, really, really
See what I'm
serious
saying?
about getting this game on out there. One of the things I have noticed too is I have never given my sons any chance to play any football because I just don't like them getting hurt. Football is a hard, tough sport. But one of the things with me was, it was my outlet. It was the way that I extinguished a lot of my anger, a lot of my frustration, a lot of my, the way it would make me feel was just exhilarating. Getting out there on that field and being able to hit something. That was a lot of fun. Lots of fun.